meeting of the Carson City Historic Resources Commission on Wednesday, May 6, 2026 to order. We're at the Community Center Bob Crowell Boardroom. Zach, would you please call the roll?
Chair Drews.
Here.
Vice Chair Schmitter.
Here.
Commissioner Block.
Here.
Commissioner Darney.
Here.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Here.
Commissioner Spielda. And Commissioner Wright.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Here.
Thank you. Public comment. Public is invited at this time to provide comment on any topic that relates to a matter over which the public body, Historic Resources Commission, has supervision, control, jurisdiction, or advisory power, including any such matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action may be taken on a matter raised during the period of public comment. Is there any public comment on items in the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4, possible action. We have approval of minutes from the March 4th, 2026 meeting. Everybody have a chance to review those?
I move that.
Entertain a motion. Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved unanimously. Next item is number 5. Or 5A, HRC-2026-0069 for possible action regarding discussion and possible action regarding a request from Valoria, Oliphant, Oster, and Amon LLP applicant to add onto the existing building to connect it to an adjacent garage structure and convert the garage into habitable space. 2, add a new accessible ramp. 3, update existing landscaping and add new landscaping. 4, install picket fencing. 5, develop a new parking lot on the south side of the property and 4 new parking spaces on the north side of the property. And number 6, install 3 electric EV chargers in the parking lot on properties owned downtown mixed use. DTMU located at 114 North Curry Street, APN 001-177-02. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. So the subject property is located at the southwest corner of North Curry Street and West John Street. The house is known as the Able House and is considered a contributing building in the district. There's also a carriage house or garage located to the rear. According to the resources inventory, the house has visual significance due to its location on a corner, and it is supportive of the character of the neighborhood. So the applicant is seeking approval to add on to the existing building to connect to the adjacent garage and convert the garage into habitable space, add a new accessible ramp, update existing landscaping and add new landscaping, install picket fencing, develop a new parking lot on the south side of the property and 4 new parking spaces on the north side of the property, and install 3 EV chargers. When considering additions to historic buildings, the commission must refer to Guidelines Division 5.26 of the Development Standards. Essentially, it requires that additions be compatible in their configuration, design, style, scale, materials, and architectural details. Additionally, the work should be done in a manner so they do not destroy significant original historical and architectural material. As presented in the application, the addition would be compatible, and the applicant is proposing to utilize salvaged windows to match existing as well as match existing siding and trim. Additionally, while the carriage house would be converted into office space, the carriage house doors are proposed to remain, so they would be visible from the street. With regard to the new accessible ramp, the commission would refer to Division 5.21 of the Development Standards, which requires improvements such as this to consider scale, massing, proportion, detailing, and balance. The ramp is proposed to be located just north of the existing porch on the east side of the building. The proposed materials for the ramp have not been provided. So staff is recommending a condition of approval requiring that the railing for the ramp match the existing porch railings. The applicant is also proposing improvements to the landscaping, including updating overgrown landscaping and replacing where necessary, in addition to incorporating landscape screening to screen and soften the proposed parking lot with EV chargers on the south side and parking spaces on the north side. New shrubs are shown along the north and south sides of the building, and the landscape plan currently does not include details as to the type of shrubs, nor does it include landscaping along the southern and western portions of the proposed parking lot. Since additional landscaping will be necessary, staff is proposing condition number 6, requiring a full landscape plan be submitted prior to the issuance of any building permit. And it would be reviewed and approved by HRC, or alternatively, potentially, it could be approved administratively by the chair. The applicant is also proposing the installation of wood picket fence, the use of which is consistent with guidelines. There's currently a combination of chain link fence and solid wood fence around portions of the southern portion of the property. The development of the parking areas. So the guidelines discuss that in section 5.25. And the guidelines recognize that the construction of parking areas in a historic district can be difficult. When considering approving parking areas, the commission should consider the design and location and whether the parking lots are designed in such a way that the effects on the district would be minimized. As I mentioned, additional landscaping will be needed to help to soften and screen the parking areas. Based on the design, the northern parking area cannot really be screened. However, this isn't the primary frontage, and the existing and proposed landscaping will soften the appearance of the parking area. The parking lot on the south side of the parcel will include some visual screening, including that picket fence, as well as required landscaping. In this parking area, so the applicant is proposing in either the 4 parking stalls at the front or the parking on the south side, the applicant is proposing the installation of 3 EV chargers. So they've provided 2 options. So this is option 1, showing the EV chargers on the north side of the building. And you can see those in the elevations as well. And then option 2 shows the EV chargers in the southern parking lot, also shown here in the elevations. So there's no clear guidance provided regarding EV charging stations. But when you look at the guidelines regarding newer technologies, such as roof-mounted solar, what the guidelines say is that the placement of such equipment should be inconspicuous from the street and installed in such a way as to not damage character-defining features of the building. While placing the chargers on the north side of the property removes them from the primary frontage, they'll not be well screened, and there really isn't an opportunity to screen them well, making them pretty conspicuous. Placement of the charging stations in the south parking lot will provide for additional screening opportunities, making them less conspicuous from the street. The applicant's also proposing to wrap the charging station posts with siding to match the building. And the placement will not damage any character-defining features of the building. So with the recommended conditions of approval, staff finds that the proposal is consistent with the guidelines and is recommending approval. We have received 1 public comment regarding this item, and that's been provided to you as late material. I'm available for questions, and the applicant's also here.
Thank you, Heather. Any commission member questions of Heather? Go ahead.
Heather, this might surprise y'all. Is there any requirement for a handicap parking space within their parking lot?
There will be requirements. What those are is they're handled by the building division. I don't know them off the top of my head. Whatever those requirements are, they will be required to meet.
Handicap parking is versus north versus south. Do we,
Based on the code, to have a handicap accessible parking space, it would have to be in the parking lot because you cannot have those open on the street.
okay, so it should be on the south side.
It would be on the south side.
Okay.
I have a question in regards to the EV the electric vehicle chargers. Are those going to be used primarily by the employees of the building?
Would you like the applicant to respond? I
Yeah.
don't know.
For the record, my name is Dan Oster, like a toaster, and I'm brother to Ray Oster, who's one of the attorneys here and a lifelong Carson City resident. Our goal, as Heather explained to us, we would only be required by code to add one parking spot in order to get this additional square footage. But today that sits as sort of maybe it used to be the yard. We feel like adding 12 parking spots to this Curry Street corridor, right at the north end of the historic district, will actually be sort of a community, will add to that community. We intend to make it a public parking area after business hours. This will be visible from Carson Street. So we've tried to keep everything that's on the front of the building that's really I like that phrase, character defining, both the porch and what's around the door. We really want to keep all that's the historic part. We want to keep that, but we also want to sort of invite people to come and park there, plug in. Oftentimes when people place these publicly accessible EV chargers, they need 20 or 30 or sometimes more minutes to then let the car charge. So we think being adjacent to LA Bakery to the north, and then sort of the retail stuff that happens down Curry Street to the south of us, that this will become something of a public access parking spot for us. So we very much intend for those EV chargers to be publicly accessible. In fact, we plan on pursuing state grant dollars earmarked. There's $38 million earmarked by the state of Nevada to promote EV charger installation within 1 mile of Highway 50. And we're right at the terminus of where 50 comes into Carson Street. So we think this is in keeping with the sort of the desire to develop that area and make it more of a walkable, community area.
The reason for my question is I did LA Bakery, and I had some issues with the city about backing into Curry Street, which you'll be backing into John Street. And I thought, well, if it's for employees primarily, they're going to be there during the day instead of people coming in and out on a regular basis for charging. And so I thought, well, maybe they'd be better on the south side if it's used for the public. But if it's for employees, on the north side, they might be better. So it was more of my question is more of a safety concern with people backing out into the street. Curry Street and John Street have become busier over the years. And like I said, I had some issues with the city when I wanted to back out into the street. But ultimately, we came to a resolve, and that was permitted. And I'm sure you have that. So my question is only the number of people backing out several times into that street, and people trying to get to the Chevron station, which is right there. So I really don't have a problem on either side. But if it was employees, it's better on the north. But if it's for everybody, like you're saying, it's probably better on the south. Thank you.
I have another question for Heather. On the railing on the ramp, you specify that you want it to match the original to the house. Is that correct, Heather?
That is my preference, yes.
Okay, so so it would be different than in this picture right here where it shows the metal railing going up the side. So it would be, the duplication of the railing would be more of the front focal piece.
That would be the intent if the commission agrees.
Okay.
So,
I have a question, item number 6. Rather than have them come back with a landscaping plan for us to review, could we make that a review by chair and staff for approval instead of having to get scheduled for a meeting 2 months from now and coming back?
Let's see what they come back with. Generally, what happens is Heather will send me the application. If I think I can approve it administratively, I will. But if there's some issues, if they're putting,
I just wanted to
Some
include
kind
it
of
in the
weird-
motion that we could do that if staff and chair thought it was applicable to provide that approval and not come back to a full board.
Yes.
So it would be in the hands of the chair to make that decision.
That's correct.
yeah.
so I have the photo simulations. So I have a few issues with those. Are those correct, or are you using the plans? Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parking lots on the north side now in the photo simulation, and you have 2 garage doors on the little carriage house, which are not original. So are you going with the original door, or in 4 places, or are you going for 6 on the north side and updating the carriage house?
Madam Commissioner, this was a ham-handed effort by a woefully under-technologically proficient real estate agent who put this into AI, which then was handed to a very capable architect. So in all cases, I would defer to what frame architecture put on here. So we put this in to try and give a sense of what it would particularly look like when it was screened by the picket fence. But in all cases, I would say that what's on the frame architecture plan is what's actually code reviewed, professionally created. There is a discussion, by the way, if you were to look at we've talked a lot and kind of wanted to get your input as a commission on your thoughts on this. Our sense is we would like a doorway potentially that would access either one or both of the parking areas. But I've never been through this process before, so I'm not sure if we're being literally held to everything in this plan or if this is an opportunity for you to give us input and we modify the design from there. But the AI is the least accurate. The frame architecture is the most of what you've been presented.
Okay. With that, then, the frame architect also has the parking only on one side of the south parking lot. So instead of having 2 rows, you just have the 1 row. And I would recommend if you have the 2 rows that you put the EV chargers on the southern side of that, so it's not up against the house at any visual effect. Even if they're framed, it'd be better if they were further away from the house than right next to the house.
Madam Commissioner, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have been in conversations with the building owner just to the south of us. That's where you're talking about. We're about 6 feet short of having a deep enough parking lot to allow nose-in parking in both directions. We may come back at a future date with a modified plan that does what you're saying, and I agree with both of you that it's better on the south side than on the north. The EV chargers, particularly for just to make sure they get used more frequently by either staff or by the public.
I have another comment, but I'll let Michelle go ahead.
Michelle Schmitter for the record. I see that Jeff Frame has put in the railing as you recommended, so it's not the metal, although I don't have an issue either way. My concern is the garage. and it looks very undersized to what's going on above it. So was there some thought into having some sort of connector or something that would move away from that large shed that's going towards the garage? And then if you look at, yes, the picture, the south elevation, it's just like everything seems so oversized around it.
Madam Vice Chair.
That's why the AI turned out a little bit better design.
What is shown as the west elevation, that is sort of facing the neighbor,
Right.
and that'll be on a zero lot line. There is a Heather, what's it called, an alleyway easement that will have to be abandoned as a part of this process. So we are dealing a little bit with property lines and whatnot. So the big massive one that is the west elevation that's pretty plain, that's going to be right up against the property line facing the neighbor and their garage. So really, our priority was the east elevation, which is really the beautiful architectural porch that's part of the original 1918 building. That is utterly untouched, that's not touched at all, and that's where all the design cue for everything else comes from. Then we're keeping everything, if you look at the north elevation, the carriage house was added, I believe, in 1980 or 83. The issue we're having there is sort of how close it is to the road, and there's some limited ability in there. In your opinion, or with your input, would it be better to make that a glass window consistent with what the other windows throughout the building?
My opinion of the carriage, we're going through this carriage building issue a lot. I like that they've left it looking like a carriage building with the double doors instead of the window. What they did with the connection to add the other window that mimics the one that's there, I like that they did their best to maintain the look of the carriage house. So, and I know it came a lot later. The other thing with the east elevation, isn't that the west elevation that goes to the alley? Excuse me.
Donna, for option one,
Yeah.
the directions are the north, south, east.
I got it. But it's the west elevation it's on the alley. I think from the street frontage from both John and Curry, they've done a great job of preserving that integrity of the building. That's just my feeling.
No, I agree with you, Don. I think that keeping the carriage house looking like the carriage house is a good solution. Any other questions?
Commissioner, in your opinion, one of the choices we're considering is leaving the door as it exists now and then being able to open it to have a glassed-in area, because what's likely going to happen inside that room is a conference room. And there's a thought that was something we discussed at length. Do we make those into windows, or do we leave it as a door like this that we then open, if they want more light in there? Can you offer us some preference or guidance on what you would rather see there?
I personally like the look that you've got there, and if it's operational and you open those up, so there's a window behind it, for conference and things like that. But again, when you close it up, we've got this historic carriage look to it. The building has to function today, and you're not going to put an old Jeep in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like that idea. I've seen that done before. And then you would have like basically a glass wall with a man door. And then you shut the carriage doors when you're not using it.
Yeah.
They'd have to open out. Correct.
Yes, that makes sense.
It'd be kind of a cool room.
Yeah, I was just, since you throw Rob under the bus, I'll throw Jeff under the bus. Your option 2, the directions are wrong. North, south, east, and west are just opposite. But I like option 2 with the chargers on the parking lot side towards the south, because it's not part of the frontage that we're looking at, either from LA Bakery or from the back where Adele's was. The railing going up the handicap ramp, I think if the way it's drawn, the way that Jeff drew it with the metal bars that are painted black, it doesn't add attention, it doesn't take any attention away from the focal point on the east side of the building, the front. I had to put a couple on my office, and they become invisible when they're done like that, so you still see the other rail behind it. I think that putting the rail to match what is existing on the front porch up that handicap ramp detracts from it. I also, with Dawn, you're keeping the carriage house, and what a novel idea that is, that people are doing. And this is one of the first times in Carson where something isn't getting torn down to become a parking lot. And you've got that extra lot in there, and I was concerned about all the parking spaces. And if you can come to an agreement with your neighbor to the south, you probably could add some more in there. But we're taking a dead yard weed patch, turning it into a parking lot. You've got chargers. I really like your attitude of adding more parking there, because when you look at LA Bakery and the old Gilbert Drug Building, they have it all chained off and say, only our people can park here. That just kind of takes away from the district, I think, the overall feel. But I really like what you're doing with it. And I'm guessing where the second window is that you put in, where you're connecting the house to the carriage house, you'll get rid of those vintage steps that go to nowhere. Your concrete steps there. So I think it looks good.
Commissioner, thank you for your comments. I think we, as native Carsonians, Carsonites, proud Carson senators, my brother and I both feel like this is an opportunity for us to come back and reinvest in our community, and that we want this to be a part of the district, right? That we want to activate this area. The LA Bakery folks, by the way, came over and were absolutely lovely about this idea and very supportive to us. And then the physical therapy guy to the south of us, we've talked extensively with him about what's going to be best for his addition as well. So it is, I see this parking lot as something, that's going to be additive to the life of the area. And we've tried to keep things, we do have my brother and I, we have a sister between us who's disabled. We'll visually keep it the same if that's the preference, but I would add that having the metal railing and sort of the security and consistency of that for people with disability, just having helped people with disability a lot in my life. If it's all equal, I would prefer to have the metal railing. I think it serves its purpose of helping people with disability better, but that's just an anecdotal opinion.
I can make a comment on that too. That ADA access and those railings are really dictated by code. The double rail, one for somebody that can stand and walk, the other one that somebody's in a wheelchair. So, and then you got the kick plate at the bottom so that somebody can't swing into it. So a lot of that design, unfortunately, is dictated, to the people that have to use it that are handicapped and not worried about the visual look. Again, Jed, when you talk about being painted black, and it will disappear, but these are things we have to do for people that have disabilities, and I think you're probably well aware of that.
I'd like to add to that. I agree with Jed. I prefer the open rail, the single rail, or the double rail metal painted black. The pickets are just going to make it too busy, too much attention drawn to it. We kind of want it to disappear, like everybody's mentioning. So I think the way the architect here shows it would be the preference.
Is the chair ready for a motion?
Could I have one more comment? when you're putting in the parking areas, is there going to be there should be a buffer, or I would recommend that you put in a buffer between the house and the parking strip because of the water drainage, and you have a stone foundation was built in 1874. So you don't want to undermine that and make it a structure that's having a problem because of moisture. So if you could just keep that in mind when you construct the parking, that you leave an area between that and maybe put in a French drain. So,
Our contractor, David Mansfield's in the room, and I'm hoping he's taking notes of that.
okay,
Well-reasoned advice.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's great, Luann. Thanks for mentioning that. We don't want you to pour like a sidewalk around the house right up to the foundation because it's too strong for the sandstone.
Are there any other commission member questions or comments?
Just like to make one comment. I wish that everybody that came here would give us a package similar to this that helps with the visualization, addresses most of our concerns and questions. You know, sometimes we get stuff that's drawn on with a crayon, and it's really hard to, have that discussion. Unfortunately, when it's so detailed, it makes a lot more questions from us.
Yeah, even though some details may be wrong, it was really helpful to visualize it. Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion, and remember, we have item 2 condition that we want, if the board agrees or the motion removes the wooden handicap rail and prefers the metal one, we should just amend that condition.
That will be added with your wording. I'd like to make a motion that I move to approve HRC 2026-0069 based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report, Carson City Historic District guidelines consistent with Historic Resources Commission policies. And in regard to item 6, that if the chair and staff believe it to be appropriate, they can provide approval for that landscaping plan.
Chair, for clarification, we would be deleting condition 5 relating to the railing and deferring to the plans that were submitted.
Yes. My motion is based on the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? I think we've clarified the 2 items.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, could I request that you amend the motion to allow for the chair and staff at their discretion, just as you've put in the ability for them to approve the final landscaping plan? May we request that we have that same mechanism for a secondary access door, which we may choose to show at a different in the back of the building, and also our contractor put in, if we are able to get additional parking, it would be, your approval would be subject to the chair's approval of that. So I'm requesting an amendment to the motion to allow the chair to authorize a modification for additional parking and a secondary access.
I think if you submit the landscape plan with those items, that we'll just go through the process. And if it looks too complex and I feel like it needs to come back to the commission, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll do.
Yep.
Administrator.
It's coming off the west end or off the south end? One of these windows becomes a door?
Yeah.
And you have to have steps then?
I would recommend that comes back
And
to us,
rails?
because that would modify the house and could have change
Yeah,
to the
there'd be
exterior.
handrails on each one, but they're on each side, not on the front facade.
It's an 1874 house. You're taking out windows or if it's on
But
the
it's
old
not,
part
you're
of the
not
house.
taking out a window, you'd be replacing the window they're gonna put in the connector between the shed and the old house. They're mimicking the window, to make that a door instead. So it'd be part of the new construction.
Okay, well,
Now, on the
see,
other
that's,
side, on the
that's why
south
we would want to
side,
see the plans, because I was confused on which
they
window
show it in
you're
the
going to take
rendering.
out.
Can we see the rendering? If you look back there on that left-hand side above the sign, it shows the door instead of the window. Right in the corner where the carriage house is. Of course, that one also shows two doors for the carriage house where there's only one, but you get my point.
Were those upright?
Madam Commissioner, absolutely, it would be a part of the new construction portion. One of our instructions, one of the priorities of the buyers of this one of the instructions was do not touch the original
House.
house at all. So nothing about the original structure has been modified. These would only be additions or subtractions from even the connector. We're really not even touching the carriage house other than to insulate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion or second. Any questions?
On the north, there, okay, it is shown there, yeah. The answer to my question, was it on the south, is wrong. It's on the north.
It's the way Jeff blew it on option 2, when it's the north side and not the south side. So you threw Rob under, I got Jeff.
Well, I like the spirit of everybody here, but I must say, Jeff Frame and his people were given so little time and really went above and beyond to turn this around. So I would love the record to reflect what a wonderful job they have done for us to turn this around quickly and professionally. But we can run them over with the bus now, too.
Any other questions on the motion?
Will they take the comma after Oster out in front of the ampersand?
Madam Commissioner, I cannot agree with you on the Oxford comma.
Okay. No other questions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Good presentation, and everybody involved did a really good job.
Thank you, Commission, for the fine work you're doing.
Next item is 5B, HRC-2026-0076. For possible action, discussion and possible action regarding request from Todd Copenhaver, applicant, to 1, remove existing aluminum siding and restore and/or replace the original wood siding. 2, replace existing windows and exterior doors. 3, install new landscaping and update existing landscaping on a parcel zoned residential office, RO, located at 1012 North Nevada Street, APN 001-182-02. Heather.
Thank you. Heather Ferris again for the record. This property is located at the southwest corner of North Nevada Street and West William Street. According to the West Side Historic District National Register nomination, the house and the garage are both contributing buildings. The applicant is in the process of converting the house to an office. And as part of those improvements, the applicant is proposing to remove the existing aluminum siding and restore or replace the original wood siding, replace windows and exterior doors, and improve the existing landscaping. The guidelines for exterior siding are outlined in Section 5.15 of the Development Standards. And they state that the original exterior siding material shall be retained and repaired when at all possible. And when replacement is necessary, the new material should match the original. The house is currently clad in aluminum siding, and the applicant is requesting approval to remove that siding and retain, restore, or replace the original wood lap siding, which is underneath. The original wood trim would also be retained or replaced like for like if necessary. Section 5.16 of the guidelines addresses windows. When original windows cannot be retained or repaired, the size, pane configuration, design, and trim would be replicated in the replacement windows. The applicant is proposing to replace the existing deteriorated windows with new windows with a pre-finished aluminum window and trim. The window style, size, pane configuration, and trim will be consistent with the existing windows. The main windows will be single hung with colonial-style divisions with upper pane, and secondary windows will be clear picture windows. Guidelines for doors are found in Division 5.17. When original doors cannot be retained, replacement should match the original in color, size, material, design, ornamentation, and configuration. The original trim and surrounding molding should be retained, intact, or duplicated. The applicant is proposing the replacement of both the front and back doors. It's unclear if the current doors are original to the house. However, the applicant has indicated that there's evidence of framing for a door with a side light at the rear of the house. Therefore, it's likely that the doors are not original. Both existing doors are wood with glass panes and storm doors covering them. The applicant is proposing replacement of the front door with a wood door with glass panes in the top portion, and the same door in the back with the addition of a matching side light. Staff is recommending a condition requiring the original trim and surrounding molding to be retained or replicated with replacement of the doors and windows. And then finally, landscaping. It's discussed in Division 5.25, and the applicant is proposing to improve the existing landscaping. The intent is to keep the existing shrubs and trees and remove the overgrown ivy. And then additionally, the applicant is proposing the installation of new lawn and decomposed granite, and staff finds that the proposed landscaping is compliant with the guidelines. With recommended conditions of approval, staff finds the proposal to be consistent with the guidelines and is recommending approval. With that, I'm available for questions, and Forrest Dodge is here. He's the owner of the property and can answer questions as well.
Commission member questions or comments to Heather?
I have a question. Maybe the applicant could answer, come forward and answer. You do, on the description of your project, you don't call out having a accessible ramp, ADA ramp, but I noticed on their plans you do, and driving by, you're installing it. So I was wondering if you could explain why it wasn't called out in the.
I can answer that. So he actually received approval administratively for that ramp.
Michelle Schmitter, for the record, do you have a picture of the back door? It seems very unusual that it would have a side light.
So when we demoed the interior for the remodel, and essentially there was a jamb on that back door that was the width, and it was framed over and kind of framed in when we did all the demolition. So at one point it was covered, and there was lots of different things in the framing that looked like they were modified at some time. So it was just hard to understand what it was. You know, in reality, you know, adding the side light, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect me at all. And the design of that, we don't plan to replace the front door actually. And the front door looked like it was original based on how the framing and the jamb was. So we just duplicated that design on the back, but added the side light because of the way that the jamb was installed in framing. So we don't have a clear picture of what that was. But that door area was replaced at some time on the back door. It doesn't look like it was on the front door, and we want to leave that.
Could you move the mic closer to your mouth?
Yeah, sorry. So we want to essentially leave the front door the way that it is and then match the back door to the front door. We're going to add the side light just based on what that jam looked like on the interior, but it doesn't matter to me. So,
What is the width of that door?
with the side light, I don't
I mean,
recall.
could you get a wider door in there?
It's going to have to be a 3-foot for commercial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the replacement door, 3 feet, and I believe the side light with it was like 1'4", 1'8", somewhere in that ballpark. I don't have that. I don't believe, unless it's in that document.
You can kind of see it now since the siding's been removed, I mean, down to the original siding. So if you go by, I think you can see it, that there's a little extra piece on the, yeah.
We've kind of left it that way just until we go through this meeting, knowing what we're going to do. The reason why I say it doesn't really matter which direction we go, because if we end up being approved to do all the work that we want to do and take the original, remove the aluminum siding and to go back to the original historic siding, we would just cover that area up and go back to the normal width door without the side light. So I don't think it's really going to affect us as long as we're approved for removing the siding and going back to the historical. So the existing, I believe, overlaid aluminum siding. So
I feel
I
like
agree with you
without
better
historical.
without the side light. So,
Without any historical documentation that there was a side light, I think it makes a lot more sense just to go with a 3.0 door
that's fine with
that
me.
matches the front. And,
Mike, I went by there and talked to the applicant today, and he had the front door open, so I couldn't help but look. And the back door is basically a 1960s ranch-style door that's got the weird lights in it. And looking through that whole house, if you look in the backyard, you can see it from William Street. The garage back there has the original siding on it. And so it's going to be the standard shiplap. And whether it has a side light or not in the back door, no one's going to be able to see it through any of the vantage points with the landscaping and everything. But he can join the ranks of myself and Bobby Benson and a few others that have taken this wonderful aluminum siding off and restored the siding, which I think is a vast improvement to the district. And when I talked to him about windows, because you know how I feel. I don't want anything replaced. I want it fixed. I'd like if he could retain the front 4 that show up to Curry Street. But like he said, on the south side, it's 6/6. In the front, it's 6/1. On the north side, it looks like, they've got the the storm windows from the 50s and 60s that are aluminum clad that are aluminum that are covering it, and kind of talked about what we talked about in Old House Magazine with storm windows. But right now it's got the ugly aluminum storm windows on the outside. The windows, a lot of them look like they've been changed out over the years. But I think it's awesome that we have somebody that's coming in and wanting to go back to the original siding and repair it and not just replacing it with something new.
So I'm a general contractor as well, and I do a lot of work in the area, not much in Carson City. My office has been located in Carson City, so we bought this to essentially use it and self-occupy the office for our own business use. In my career, we've gone through quite a few historic renovations and projects on homes. We just finished one about a year ago in Glenbrook on the lake, the Jellerson House, built in the 1880s. It had the matching siding that I suspect is on this, just based on the garage and some of the areas where we can kind of see in to what the profile of the siding is. But typically in the past, when we're going through this, we'll identify what that siding is, and then we'll have it custom made to match exactly what the profiles are. So we're not buying something generic that looks similar. It will be milled and made to match exact. So it's hard to get an understanding of what the trim and those details are on the exterior because of the aluminum siding, but literally every aspect of the house right now is covered in the aluminum. There's outlooker beams on the ends of the gables, as well as that front porch. Again, covered in aluminum, hard to tell what's behind it. So without removing it, we just don't quite know right now. The whole goal is to bring this back to its historic nature, and, kind of similar to what the previous applicant said is, we would, it feels like it's supporting the community and helping the community to just bring this back to what it was and its glory. So that's our goal.
Yeah, it's always tough to figure out what's under the more modern siding and come up with a plan that replicates it without knowing. So we understand that.
So on that, Mike, the condition 6, I know that this is not the original trim here because it has mitered corners. So I wonder how we want to run that, because if you're going to deconstruct, remove the aluminum, really see what we have, maybe we want to just say to match the original, whatever your finding will be, because if anyone thinks, I just don't think that's original with the mitered corners, the picture you have up.
Yeah, that's definitely not original. That's aluminum. That's covering whatever the original is right now with aluminum, and whether or not the original siding or siding and trim was removed in these locations when they applied the aluminum.
Hopefully they just went right over it.
Hopefully they did, and if not, then I think that at that point we just have to follow the historic guidelines of the recommended trim details.
Mm-hmm. And then what about the sills? Do you think the sills are
No idea. It's so hard to tell right now.
okay?
Yeah.
From the inside, how do they look? Are they intact or?
Some of them are fractured and broken. Some are intact. I don't have a clear understanding. When we started this project and we got a demolition permit on the interior to start demo. We went through asbestos testing. It was hot for asbestos. So essentially we hired a company to come in and abate all the asbestos. What was hot was essentially areas where things were modified at a later date, and it was inside drywall compound. So when that company came in and they did the demolition, certain things, I don't know if it was original or fractured, but the house was in really rough shape when we started, and a ton of changes. So it's really hard to say,
Okay.
but
Okay.
some is okay and some is not. And as Jed said, we were, in choosing windows, we chose the front elevation of matching that window, which isn't matching on any side of the house. We felt like that probably had the most integrity of what, the original historical structure had. South side, there were divided lights on both the upper and lower sash. The north side, there's no divided lights on the upper or lower sash. And then upstairs on the windows, they were added at some point. They're aluminum framed windows altogether. So all of it is, covered in caulking, and it's in rough shape. It's hard to get an idea of what was original versus not.
Forrest, just looking at this picture, it looks like the moldings up and around the window are covered in aluminum siding. Is the sill of the window covered in aluminum siding as well?
Yes.
So, and when they put aluminum siding on my house, they cut off 6 inches of the sill. So when you uncover that, the whole sill is probably going to be there. And knowing that the outside piece of the sill is an added piece to the inside. So there's a couple different pieces there, but at least the tails aren't cut off.
Jed, did you find any historic photos of this?
A friend of mine dumped off 700 photos the other day, but this wasn't on any of them.
The garage structure in the back gives us the most idea of what was historical, but again, the trim and the doors on the back, I don't think it is. The siding looks like it is. On the main house structure, the fascia, the soffits, the outlooker beams, the window trim, door trim, siding, all covered in aluminum.
Mike, I would think that when you do the demo of the exterior siding, you'll find some exterior siding that's original.
Right.
And I think we just make a comment in our approval that we mimic or match it in profile.
Same with the trim.
Yeah, this is one where we kind of have to trust the applicant that if they say they're going to restore it to original, that there's enough pieces there that they can figure out what the original is and we'll get it.
My guess is there's only like 3 or 4 different styles that were prominent at that time period with horizontal siding, and it's going to be one of them. So,
Right. It did say in one of the historical reports that we got, I believe from you guys or Heather, that the upper gable ends were covered in I believe shingles with horizontal siding lower. I'd have to see, but if we uncover that, then that's what we'd want to do. So.
And then part of just my visual of it, where they have taken the rotted porch off, you can see the side profile. You have the metal siding, and then you can see the side profile of the shiplap there. So it's the 5.5 inch with the beveled edge and everything. So
Right.
there are things, and then when you look at it matches what's on the carriage house behind it.
Right.
It's definitely a worthy project, so.
Were there
It's a
any,
big project. Yeah.
Horace, were there any windows in the carriage house, in that garage?
On the back, yes, there are, but they're covered in plywood or something like that. And we haven't touched it. So,
Because that might give an idea of what the lighting would have been if it was 6/1 or 6/6.
I don't think they were double hung windows on the back.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I hope
When-
you can sort out what this shed, the windows below the shed, off the front of the house, the shed dormer here, because I don't think that's it. What's being proposed? I think there was probably 3 separate windows. Is that
Three
what you're thinking? You can sort of see it in this photo. Oops. From the survey in 1980. Maybe this was before the aluminum.
Yeah. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing 3, oh, I see. It is 3 windows, okay. Yeah, I'm fine. Had a moment. I was looking at your proposed and it looked like one long window.
Oh, on the dormer.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's proposed to just match exactly what's currently
Okay,
there.
okay, good.
So, and that window is falling apart and broken. You can kind of see even in this photo, the center one is kind of falling out and leaning out. One of the windows is broken.
Can I point something out on that? If you look really close at the picture on the right, that's a gable end up on top. The shed was added after. It's not original. The shed roof that you've seen on the left is not original to the house. It was a gable end. If you look at that, it's foggy and it's kind of fuzzy, but you can see that diagonal line representing the main roof.
I don't know if that's just light. Getting into the framing inside, it looks like the porch was original.
Does it look
So,
that way?
yeah.
Because it really looks deceiving here. But this is a strange picture.
On page
I mean,
48, there's another image of it as a dormer.
That is interesting, though.
I
Does that hap- I've
don't
seen that
think a
happen.
gable end would have been consistent with that craftsman style.
Yeah.
On page 48 in this report, there's an image that shows it pretty clear as a dormer,
That's the 1980 survey.
the 1980 survey.
And you can see where they boxed it in with the aluminum siding
Yeah,
around
it's
the
got
face and everything.
the exposed raptor tails and it
Yeah.
looks like they're
Right.
2x2s or 2x2 windows.
So as we've been actively working on the project, adding the handicap ramp, as we got into the porch, the two corner columns on this porch didn't have any structural support underneath them. The roof itself on the porch had settled about 4 inches, and we've been able to jack that back up and get a foundation underneath those. There was no foundation; it was just on dirt. Get it supported. Well, we did, and it still wants to sag about 2 inches on the front. So I was hoping that we could, and this just has recently come up, add 2 posts where the 2 columns are in the center, right at the staircase as well. Smaller posts without much detail. If not, then we probably have to replace the beam with something. But right now there's a structural issue with it.
What size is the beam now? Can you tell? Or is it
It's hard to
exposed
tell
now?
without doing a lot of demolition. It's hard to say
So
until we can.
there's deflection in the beam because of that span. And we need
Yeah.
Michelle, wouldn't it have been consistent to have 4 columns across where the entrance, I mean, you can have full columns there by the entrance, I think on the,
I've seen it both ways.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it might have been that they've been removed.
we'd have to,
Like,
Jed would have to find the historic photo.
I would think that maybe once, if we give them approval to pull the siding off, then that's gonna give them to be able to go back there and see if the beam's rotted or what it is. And if it's the beam sagging not because of rot, just because it's old, and wants to put a couple smaller posts, that we could leave that up for the chairman to determine if he felt comfortable with it. Otherwise, it would need to come back. But it is a big span, but it could just need, a stiffener on the back of that, but you won't, like you say, you won't know until the siding comes off.
Yeah.
Because even the soffit in that porch is covered with the steel siding.
Yeah. The homes right across the street do have multiple columns in front, but I don't believe the beam is rotten. I suspect that it's undersized based on what we found on the interior framing.
So, Mr. Chair, with regard to the beams or the posts being added, that's something that would have to be either advertised for a future meeting, or if it's something that you feel you can approve administratively.
I
We'd
think
have to
if you
approach it
went
then.
with tapered posts that match those front bases, they wouldn't, it looks like the 2 corner ones are more rectangular. But if you went with smaller square posts that match those bases and taper them, that it would probably work, and I can approve that. I mean, if the commission agrees that would be a good solution, I'd just approve that administratively.
I'm okay. I think visually that would work as long as they're not as oversized as the ones on the end.
Yeah, so just match the corner posts, just reduce in scale.
Go square instead of rect, or whatever that base is, if it's.
They are square
Yeah,
currently.
that's what it looks like.
So
Forrest, on the windows that you're proposing, is it a true divided light where the grid is not between the two panes?
I don't know, but I believe so. I believe it's glazed between each pane, but I'm not confident on that. And the outside of these is covered in the aluminum storm window, so it's just a view from the interior, but the glazing is on the outside. So.
And the reason I say that, and Don's talked about this, about consistency, and you have the little red house that's across the street, and that was, when he came in front of the commission, he wasn't really nice and wavering on doing what was right versus putting that in. The house to the south of him on this street, they have low-E double pane windows that aren't, the grids are in the inside. And there's another one to the south that, another set of windows that didn't get approved or come in front of the commission. When you go to the north, the houses across the street to the north have not been replaced. So Mike McIntosh's house, which is two in, the windows haven't been replaced, nor is the other one. So it makes it tough if we want to stay consistent for the people that bootleg stuff in versus what we're trying to accomplish now.
So if we do this, I may have misunderstood the proposed windows. They won't be a true divided light. They'll be simulated, but it will have a frame on the exterior, so a grid on the outside. So it won't be solid glass with just essentially like a air bar running between the two panes. It will have that still to simulate the divided light, but it'll be one sheet of glass with frame over the top of the glass.
Michelle Schmitter for the record. I think to mitigate that, because we don't like them, by the way, simulated divided lights as much. We don't really know what the windows are, except for what's surviving on the garage. We could do where you're replacing them, just 1/1s. And then we can just eliminate the whole divided light issue. Unless you're replacing in kind exactly what was there.
And that's what
Can I ask you a question about that? Those applique dividers like he's talking about on the top, they're removable.
Mhm.
So if you're going to allow to 1/1, you can always put those on there if they're removable.
On this manufacturer, they also put an air bar inside, which
Between the panes.
Shadow, to give a shadow.
Yeah.
so it really mimics a divided light. So as you probably know, a true divided light window gets extremely expensive, right? So these are already a high quality window. When they do the divided light, I think it would take an expert to be able to know the difference between what I'm proposing and what would be a true divided light based on the air bar going between the two pieces of glass with the frame over the top. So if you were to remove that frame that's over the glass, you would still see the air bars.
I'm wondering if you couldn't request that be omitted.
I could, but if they were going to be there, it would look more authentic if that air bar
Yeah.
was inside the panes.
I'm thinking the 6/1 is probably the original, would be consistent with the
It
craftsman.
looked original to me. When
Yeah.
I drove by
So,
there,
I
it looked
mean,
kind of close.
Yeah,
I mean,
can't,
it's obscured by the storm sash, but
yeah,
it's still there.
yeah. I mean,
I
if
don't
it
have
were,
a problem with that,
yeah.
6/1.
I think the old Andersons used to have the removable grid, but
And the Pellas, because I have.
yeah.
But I don't know what the other windows are on the house.
So on the south side, on the existing driveway, it's 6/6.
Oh,
On the north side, it's 1/1.
okay.
So this is the compromise.
6/1.
This felt like it was the most appropriate to what the integrity of the house was based on the elevation. So
Are these the tinted low E, or is it? I mean, one of the problems we have is if you get too much tinting on those low E windows, they don't look, they're not clear glass, and it
Look
really does
green.
take away. They're the greenish look.
yeah, I don't believe I have to have the low E with the glass. If that is a sticking point, I believe that we can just have that removed.
Yeah, it'd be better if it was just the clear glass. I mean, you've got the insulation with the dual panes, and if you
Right.
could go with just the clear glass, that'd be a real help. That way you don't get that green tint
Right.
and that other look.
I think this is really exciting. I drive up that street all the time, and I wish you luck on the ivy.
We've been tackling the ivy, trying to get it. We had arborists come out, try to clean up all the trees, just trying to keep the trees alive. We had two different arborists look at it. The people that ended up doing the work, they essentially told us that the ivy climbing up the trees will kill the trees eventually, and obviously keeping those big mature trees was very important to us. So we're trying to keep up with it. They thought it would be impossible, but I think it's just something we have to kind of maintain. So, and that's part of the idea of wanting to get rid of those beds with all the deciduous, planting that's on the ground, because the ivy is coming through that. If we go back to just like a DG, then we can make sure that we're keeping the ivy away from climbing the trees.
Yep.
So,
As you go through this, if you start running into questions, just let Heather know, and one of us can go out there and
okay.
just more eyes it can usually be better. And I guess what I'm trying to say is don't just jump into it and do what you want. Just let's keep the communication open so that we know
Right.
where it's going.
So that what triggered all of this for us, my goal with this was to get in, occupy the building and start using it, get through the interior remodel. And then at a later date, I was thinking that it would be later than now, start the exterior work. And as we started getting into it, and the trigger from the windows really is what caused us to get here based on it affecting the interior. From a financial standpoint, resource time, I'll probably be working on the exterior slowly, just as, I have employees that are free for a period of time. We'll have the windows in stock, we'll have the siding ready to go, and we'll just tackle kind of one side at a time as we get into it, which I think will allow, communication between you guys so that we make sure that we're doing it to the best, historical, renovation as possible.
Any other commission member questions or comments? Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Because they don't talk about the siding at all.
So, if I can address that. So basically, condition number 1 is kind of a catch-all, and it says all development shall be substantially in accordance with the site development plan and other plans reviewed by the Historic Resource Commission. So what has been presented to you, assuming that you approve it, is what we would be looking at as staff to ensure that that's what's being constructed. If you feel more comfortable having a specific condition, we can certainly add that, but that's essentially how we manage these types of applications
So
all the
This
time.
whole package is the site development plan.
Yes, so if there's anything that you want to modify, then I think that's where the conditions come into play. But if you feel more comfortable having a specific condition about something, then we can add that as well.
I'm the newbie here. You guys tell me whether this works.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the packet is the staff report, and like the last item, if we want to change something in the staff report, we'll point that out, but otherwise, it's what's contained in the packet. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll do a motion. I move to approve HRC 2026-0076 based on the findings and conditions of approval, including the staff report, the standards and guidelines for rehabilitation, Carson City Historic District guidelines, and consistent with the Historic Resources Commission, allowing them to replace the windows with non-low E wood aluminum clad windows with the exterior grid. And I think that's it.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any questions?
Can I clarify before you
Sure.
take a vote? So I had heard a couple of things in the discussion. So what was labeled as condition 6, but should be condition 5 in the staff report, there was some concern about the way it was worded with regard to the original trim. So I would suggest that we modify it to read, the trim and molding around the windows and doors shall match the original. Does that address your concern, Michelle?
It's hard when you say original.
Yeah.
It's better to say the historic trim and molding, or, yeah.
Okay.
As you stated, is fine too.
Okay. I heard the non-low E clear glass windows only. Otherwise, everything else that was provided with the windows is sufficient, correct? And then I also heard discussion about the rear door. And to clarify, because the application included the front door, I would like to add another condition that says the approval of the replacement of the door is limited to the rear door only. And I think I heard you guys say it shall not include the side light. Okay. Thank you.
Do we need, we could just add that to the record, then we don't, okay.
I would
Oh.
say Jed could amend the
Yeah.
motion to include those items.
And I amend the motion to include the items that Heather just described.
Thanks, Jed, and thanks for putting those out, Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of work.
I'm looking forward to being complete, but
I bet.
a lot of work between now and then.
Next item is staff's reports. Planning Division, Heather.
So just really quickly, as you all know, May is Historic Preservation and Archaeological Awareness Month. So with that, we have the proclamation and Historic Preservation Awards going to the Board of Supervisors tomorrow. Mike will be there. Additionally, the scavenger hunt opened up on Friday, May 1st. And then we already have received some feedback on the scavenger hunt. People really enjoy it, first of all. The one thing that I have heard is if there could be additional prizes, and it's something for us to discuss for next year, but if there could be additional prizes for folks that get the right answer, because right now we only have the one prize. So that's something just you can consider, think about, and we can talk about it as we discuss next year's scavenger hunt. And then finally, Wednesday, July 1st is our next regularly scheduled meeting. With it being close to a holiday, is that going to be an issue for anybody? Do you know? Should I email you and double check? Okay, everybody's good? All right, that's all I have.
Commission member reports or comments?
I've got a couple. Has anything come about with 402 West Robinson since it's been tagged? And
No, I don't have anything additional to report. The notice of violation has been recorded against the property, though.
if you could reach out to them, the weeds are about a foot tall.
Okay.
Now, they did remove the cross on the Catholic Church, and they got inside there, and moisture had gotten in there, and with all the pigeon stuff and everything else, they're having to get remediation done. I guess the flies were pretty horrendous when the workers were up in there, so they have to remediate the inside of the steeple before they can start working on the louvers.
Why
We want
we
to-
didn't want to close them up.
Yeah. Any other commission member reports?
Sorry.
I just have one comment. I'd like to thank everybody that contributed to the scavenger hunt because it was definitely a team effort. Everybody worked on either getting photos or editing information and putting together information. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Luann.
One of the items on the board's agenda tomorrow is approval of the revisions to the programmatic agreement between SHPO and Carson City Parks and Rec Open Space. We heard that item, we supported the recommendations, and I will tell the Board of Supervisors that the Historic Resources Commission approved those. Future agenda items. Anybody have anything?
This year, the Christmas ornament's going to be the house that Walter Toby built in 1875, which is my house. And then next year, I think they're going to do the Posey Bender house.
Okay. Let's see how many applications we get for July. Usually it's kind of slow.
If we don't have applications, we won't have a meeting.
Public comment, turn public comment on Historic Resource Commission matters. Hearing none, we'll move to adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 5:19. Stick around, we have an open meeting law presentation.